we're back again at the Hello New World podcast. This time we have the lovely Victoria Fortes here. I'm your host, obviously. I'm nobody, to be honest with you. But yeah, we're at the Hello New World podcast, and she empowers women and people, and that's what she does. And so like a regular fashion, we're gonna start off with your typical. How happy are you in life on a scale from 0 to 10?
I would have to say right now I'm an 8.
8. Now, what would make the other two come into play? Well, why do you feel like that's a missing or whatever?
I think the other two are based on things that I'm working on now actually coming into fruition. So seeing a couple of things accomplished that I'm in process with now.
Things like what?
Uh,
Don't hold back. It's the Hello New World show. You know what I'm saying? The Hello New World podcast.
Some of my personal dreams and visions and
things of that nature.
That nature.
Okay. Originally, you're from Boston, right?
Sure am.
What's their descent? Your nationality, descent. People get real picky over that. My nationality, descent.
Well, my mother's from Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
My father's Cape Verdean and black.
Okay.
So,
Cabo Verde in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
From the yard. So you got Cabo Verde in the yard. She representing. What was Boston like for you growing up here? Because everyone has their own story of how
it was
Boston
fun.
was.
It was fun. Actually, still living in Boston now, I noticed like a dramatic difference. I grew up in Roxbury,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, it was fun. Going outside, kids on the street playing, summertime, people busting open the hydrants, like everybody at the park,
Life.
Everybody out and about. And I don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
But it was fun for me.
It was fun. No traumatic.
The crazy thing about it is, I grew up all throughout Boston. So I had family in Dorchester, people in Mattapan. So between Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, I kind of just circulated.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize until I started to leave certain environments that stuff that was kind of just norm wasn't norm.
Yeah.
So you say no traumatic events. For me, it wasn't traumatic.
Gotcha.
You
don't know something's traumatic until you know something else.
Exactly.
Then you discover, like, hold on, okay. So it's not normal for this many cops to be around.
Right, or for certain individuals to be hanging on the corner.
Yeah. I would say, like, Boston, the black, Spanish neighborhoods, the brown neighborhoods, are definitely more policed. I'll say that because I grew up in Boston and I always found that to be a little odd. And I felt like the cleaning wasn't as either effective, either the cleaning was happening often, but it wasn't effective, or the cleaning just wasn't happening often. You get what I'm saying?
Wasn't effective.
Yeah, like they're cleaning it up all the time.
You know what?
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you would go to the South End, and what I noticed is they power wash their sidewalks often. But if
they
you
do
go to
street cleaning twice a week,
and I
times
feel like,
a week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So something's going on with the.
But they street clean in Boston. I think there's just a different level of upkeep.
We're gonna leave that alone.
But I love the neighborhood I grew up in.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like Boston lacks? Black minority Boston. Like, if you could change something in Boston, because you think about Atlanta, you think about Miami, all these places. Like the movie ATL, they had that skating rink. I mean, it's not the most glorious thing, but You knew everyone was
going. We have Shebu.
Yeah, we got, but everyone's not there. ATL, I think everyone, like, you knew everyone, you know. But anyway, so what do you feel like Boston lacks as far as, like, for the, our people?
I think that there's been a breakdown in the community structure with Boston. There's definitely, like, I see a divide. You have young black millennials who are just super empowered, and they're on there, they're building themselves up, they're becoming successful in different areas, whether it be education, whether it just be career wise. And then you have, not to say that no one's not doing whatever, but I just feel like there's a divide, and it's kind of very cliquish in a sense.
I hear that
there's a lot of like cliquish activity
no new
in Boston. It's not really, we're not really like welcoming and open to one another. Like when you go to other states, you kind of get a chance, and you come back here, you kind of get a chance to see that it's just a different vibe. It's not like a welcoming vibe. You have to, you know what I mean? Like I could go to Atlanta and nobody knows
and
me
establish some type of network,
right? Yeah. But it's just, there's just more of a welcoming receptiveness amongst one another. And it's kind of like in Boston, if I didn't grow up with you, or if you don't know somebody I know, then it's kind of just, I ain't speaking. Yeah. And I think that needs to change. And I think that if that did change, then maybe we could start to actually move forward together. Like it wouldn't be a divide,
I can agree with that in a way, like music. New York ran the music scene for a little while. But the demise, they say, one of the big falls of it was you had 50 Cent, which was huge, and Ja Rule beefing. It was just like, okay. So what it did was, when Atlanta came with this Peace Up, A-Town Down kind of unity type of vibe, it kind of allowed them to creep up. It was like,
oh, you from the A, we all rock together.
D4L, Shake That Laffy Taffy, Huey. It was just a unity movement, and it hasn't left since. And that right there, you could do more together type of vibe. So
united we stand.
Yeah, united we stand, exactly. So Boston definitely needs that when it comes to like the urban scene. So I agree with you there. So what do you feel like your mission is in life at this point?
My mission in life. I'm extremely passionate about women and seeing women excel, but not just excel from a economic standpoint or just from a career-based standpoint, but really being bold enough to break through some of the limitations that the society around us places on us. I feel like a lot of women, especially Black women, tend to do what you have to do and tend to do what seems safe and secure versus actually going after their dreams. And so we also deal with like a lot of trauma. We also deal with, a lot of hardship, especially in the inner city communities. And, my mission is to really just help women to not only just focus on external means of success, but really focus on within. Really focus on, building themselves up from the inside out in a standpoint, in a sense.
I think that's super important. Here's why. Like, changing clothes is easy. You just go, you change clothes, whatever. Changing maybe even your dialect, how you speak. It's, instead of saying I'm going to the flat, you say the crib. Real quick. You can pick up slang anywhere. And certain change is easier, but to change the foundation of a person, because if you've been somebody 18 years, 20 years, to come and think, if you've been told Santa's real for 20 years and all of a sudden someone want to tell you, nah, he's not, you're going to be like, okay, right, you're going to need to convince me more. So to help women change the foundation of their thinking, that definitely is going to need some coaching. Yeah. So that's a task, and I respect that task that you're taking because it's needed, man.
Your
'Cause-
mindset, and I think people overlook that and think of it as something that's so small. You know,
Yeah.
we're in this mode of kind of like, forget about your feelings, forget about the past, forget about what's happened. But then you build this life and you realize that it's not built on a strong foundation, and you end up in situations. You see women in cycles where on the outside it looks like you're so successful, but then their personal life is a mess. Their self-image is a mess. Their internal dialogue, really how they feel about themselves, it doesn't match up to the image that they project. And really, we're broken. And nobody wants to touch on that.
So true. So Drake just dropped Scorpion today. And it's dope. It's a classic. I'm saying that right now.
Shout
It's a
out
classic.
to Drake.
Drizzy, you know what I'm saying? Six guys. Anyways, but he said, I know a girl where her latest post is leave me alone, but she wants attention. Like, basically,
Yep.
she said, I know a girl, her latest caption is leave me alone, but deep down, she really needs attention. But the caption's kind of opposite of what she feels. So I brought that up to say that there's the cool and then there's reality.
Right.
So I feel like we're trying to do the cool.
Right.
Like, I wore this Rolex. It's fake, but it looks cool. That's a lie. That's a lie. But, so, it's definitely the big one, though. But, we're chasing the cool versus, like, the reality. So it's like, it's not cool to let your guard down and say, I'm depressed.
Right.
I'm hurt. I'm broken. Because then people go...
And hold on. And then we get labeled, you get that angry black woman label, but it's because you have all this pent-up frustration. You have all these unresolved issues, things you didn't get closure on because you didn't have the voice in order to speak up for yourself and to actually express things that are actually going on that bother you, you know? And I feel like we have, just women in general, not just black women, but we deal with a lot. And I think that we really have a key role and responsibility, not just within our families, but like in our communities and really in the structure of this country as a whole, because we nurture, right? Like we nurture, we're supposed to be the love givers, like everything kind of comes from us.
Beyonce had a quote, who's gonna save me after I save the world? So it's kind of like one of them things, like when I'm done nurturing and caring and making love to my man and trying to bear a child, if I can bear a child, I can't bear a child, I want to bear a child, you raise the child, all that. It's like,
taking care of my household, going to work, building an empire.
That's when you come into play. Because if the man can relate to his wife to a degree, but when you have someone that says, you know what? I kind of get where you're coming from, and this is what you need to manage. And sometimes it's hard to, big word, compartmentalize.
Oh.
Sometimes it's hard to mentally compartmentalize all your tasks. So you have a person step in and say, okay, so what are you facing? This is what you're facing. Your husband doesn't relate. Well, here's how I can relate. So, it's very necessary. And I think people need to, females, women need that because I'm gonna be real.
I don't think we actually said that though. That I'm a life coach. I don't think we.
That's what we get into next. What are you doing now? And how did you get that started? That was good.
Okay.
I was segueing.
You segueing. Okay. But yeah, so I'm a life coach. That's life actually coach. What I'm mainly focused on right now. So I'm a faith-based life coach, and I focus
faith-based life coach.
Yeah, and I focus on women who feel stuck, women who feel unsatisfied, women who have a dream and a vision for something bigger, but they don't know how to even get that outside of their own head.
Now, what made you start that? Like, was it sometimes sometimes they say when you see a need for something and no one, you can't, you create it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's almost like
I created something I needed.
Exactly.
So,
You can relate. It's relatable that way.
And I actually, the clients that I've worked with thus far, I mean, it's amazing to see. I've worked with women from so many different backgrounds, different ages, and, you know, you would think that if someone, you know, that has their master's degree, has a husband and a beautiful home and their children, they have everything going on
together.
You'd be surprised what might lie underneath that, what it takes for that woman to maintain that, what it cost her, you know, and you'd be surprised how unhappy someone still can be. On the flip side of that, like I've worked with people who, you know, wouldn't necessarily, like they're holding it together, but wouldn't necessarily, I've just been surprised that I've been able to kind of pinpoint things, given my age, given my background, that I've been able to sit with someone that you would think has it laid out.
And then you're like, here I am, able to talk to.
Be able to pinpoint,
Age, I find age to be somewhat of an illusion. I'm going to say, like, it can be tricky.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I've met females that were younger than females that were like 35 that possess females that are younger. Yeah, that.
It's chilly in here, Junior.
Slightly chilly. I'm cold. That's why. No, it's a cold world. No. Is it really?
I'm alright. I'm straight. It's alright. I'm
cool. I've met females that were older, and their age kind of makes them say, I'm a grown woman, you know. But then
that statement gets a lot of people in
trouble. The same way, like, you know, I'm young. You keep saying you're young forever. Next thing you know, you're not so young. You get nothing done. But I've met some females, to piggyback off what you were saying about you're surprised. Sometimes you're shocked that at your age, you're able to help people that are older and seem like they have it all together. You'd be surprised, like, there are some people that are older and they live to be 40, but they haven't gained 40 years of knowledge. They survived 40 years. But they didn't really live those years. There's a lot of...
Because here's the thing, right? Like, you know, wisdom doesn't always equate to your age. But the thing about it is, if you, through the process and the course of you living your life, if you experience certain things and you actually learn the lesson, because everything you experience is supposed to be a lesson. So if you actually learn the lesson, then you have wisdom in that area. But a lot of people don't learn the lesson. They just go through it and they're like, whew, I made it through that. Yeah. And they don't
get the lesson from it. And then they say, I think biblically it says, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. So, that's kind of like insanity, just repeating the same thing over and over. So life coach, that's a beautiful thing. So are you a feminist? I want to know, like, because that's a heavy...
But I do believe in equality between the sexes, but I'm not a feminist. I don't subscribe to that movement. I still believe in the positions, I don't necessarily want to even say biblical, but I still just believe in the roles of a man and a woman. I do think that there are areas that a woman needs to be submissive to a man. And I think that whether it's intentional or not, that in some ways the feminist movement tramples all over that aspect of a relationship between male and female. And I understand completely. I mean, like I said, my thing is I'm passionate about empowering women to find their voice, to break through their own limitations. And a lot of that has to do with how we relate to men. However, one of the ways that you can actually have a powerful voice is understanding your power and having a meekness. The Bible calls it being meek. So meek is not being weak. It's being humble and reserving, constraining your power, being wise with how you address certain things, or just understanding that, you shift atmospheres. And so you literally can make the difference in an argument or a disagreement or a misunderstanding between you and your spouse. And I think a lot of times we get into such a place of, no, you're going to hear what I got to say because, you know, you don't want to feel like anyone's walking over you. But that's why it's important that you do the internal work so that that's not even a part of your thought process. You know? Like, if you're a queen, nobody can walk over you. You don't have to state that you're a queen.
What's understood don't have to be explained all the time, right? Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I would agree that the feminist movement, the foundation of it, I feel like comes from a good place.
Absolutely.
But if used wrong, some people jump in it and they kind of like use it as a tool to say, I don't need a man. You know, it kind of, sometimes it gets,
right.
You know, it gets like, the lines get blurred a little bit. And there's a balance that's
needed. It should be respect me, honor me, acknowledge me, see me, because I respect, honor, acknowledge, and see you.
Okay, yeah. That's what it should be, right?
Not just respect me, honor me, see me, acknowledge me.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Me, I said.
Yeah, I get what you say. It needs to be, it's kind of, I get what you're saying.
I know a lot of people might disagree with that. I mean, it's a touchy subject. And that's it. Like, I think, once again, I see the extreme need, necessity for us to really kind of deal with some of the things that we carry that are heavy burdens for us as women. Before you bring that to the forefront and try to make an argument on something, you need to get your emotions
in check.
In check.
Okay. I mean, real is real, man. It's 2018. Sometimes you gotta give it to people direct. So let's switch gears a little bit, right? This speaks to your experience. What was your longest relationship?
Longest relationship. So I had a very long situationship. Okay. That was like an 8-year situationship. But my actual longest real full blown relationship was 3 years.
Yeah. Situationship. Okay. Was your dating goal to get married?
Yes. Yes.
Because a lot of people, I feel like, now are in relationships for the sake of saying, I'm not alone.
There's a lot of that.
And me personally, I think that leads to more of, if you're dating someone and you're with them, and the goal, because these days, you know, a lot of people say, I don't believe in marriage. Well, it's not Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying? To believe in something would means that it's somewhat of a fictional thing. Yeah. Like, you can't say, do you believe in this mannequin? Well, it's not something to believe in. It's there, you know?
Well, I think that's because there's so much mixed information out there where people are just in a state of questioning everything. Like, you know, oh, well, I don't believe this because, you know, a man came up with the idea for marriage. It's not based on anything real. And so I don't want to subscribe to that. But go ahead.
That's cool. Yeah. I was listening to you. I was just going to say that when you get married, it's you take like an oath, you know, you make a vow to God, and that in itself, I think it's your way of saying, I want to be with you forever. Like, this is a thing. Because if we're just dating, I can walk away and say, I never knew you. And I can say, you know, but when you get married, I feel like it's more, two becomes one. And I feel like we kind of lost that. So the reason why I asked was you dating to be married, because these days, like, when people just aimlessly date, it leads to an aimless mother and fathering of a child separately, because you never dated to really love and marry a person. You get what I'm saying?
I actually want to say something about that. So you said, was I dating to get married? And I said yes.
Was that your goal?
I said yes. But I do want to just shed the light on the fact that I had the goal of that, but it wasn't a solid goal because knowing what I know now, at the time, I didn't really know I didn't have a clear understanding or idea of what marriage really would consist of and what it would take in order to be prepared to be a wife, or what I should be looking for as qualities for a husband. And so that may have been my intention, but it was a very limited intention, because I didn't have the understanding. And so, yeah.
How much of that relationship was toxic?
The situationship?
Situationship. I don't know the difference between.
I mean, doesn't that sound toxic? It sounds pretty toxic, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, I would say more than was actually good.
More toxic than it was good.
Yeah, more toxic.
What was the determining factor that made you say, "Oh, yo, I'm out"? Like, what gave you that courage? Like, what was the?
I realized that I was holding on to that situation for all the wrong reasons. I realized that that situation was not a good reflection of the person that I am, and that it spoke more to who I wasn't than who I am, and that it would also keep me anchored in a place of not being really who I truly am. So
what I'm hearing is that if you're in a relationship with someone, you got to think it's like 7 billion people in the world. You won't meet most of them. You probably won't meet 6 billion of those people.
No.
But there's a point in your life where you met this person. You didn't just meet them. You met a lot of people in your lifetime. But for some reason, this particular man or woman became your boyfriend or girlfriend. Now, with that being said, before you leave this earth, there's going to be a lot of people you didn't date or you didn't make them your partner. So if you actually took the time to say, this is my girlfriend, it's my boyfriend. So out of everyone in the world, this is the one person I could say, to a degree, is mine. So with that being said, that person should mirror you. Like, you should mirror each other. You should reflect each other. You shouldn't take your path and walk with someone where you have nothing in common.
But see, that's what happens. It wasn't the lack of commonalities that broke us apart. That is the issue. People do find people that mirror them.
Okay.
And so that's going back to having that interpersonal healing.
I'm learning too, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Because I found that, we connect in relationships, for me, in two different categories. You connect in either pain or love. And a lot of people connect from a place of pain, which brings about a means of necessity. You connect
where you need each other, not want each other.
Right. Or you might be able, one of the dumbest things is that I know that I used to kind of look at things and think from a standpoint of, you'll never understand me because we didn't share the same background. And so, if I met someone and I was like, oh, you went through this too? You experienced that? And and we had that commonality, then that brought a false sense of comfort. But going back to what I said about, me realizing that certain people can actually anchor you into a past that doesn't fit you anymore, that you don't want to continue into your future. And so why should that be something that makes you have that comfort with that person? Like, why should that be, what knits you guys together? And a lot of relationships we get into just based off of where we're at right now, and we don't have a clear perspective of really where it is that we're going and where we're trying to grow to. And so you just get with someone for the now and you hope for the best that they're going to be able to grow with you.
So what I'm getting out of that, not to cut you off, is that you want to get with someone that speaks to your future and feeds your future, not so much just your present.
Absolutely.
This is a therapeutic session right here. Someone out there is going through something. And the point of the Hello New World podcast, Tupac said it. He said, I may not change the world, but I will spark the brain of the person who will change the world. So I'm learning. I hope you guys are getting something from it. And
I hope so.
definitely. So, just to throw out there, how long do you think people should date before they get married? Is there
How
like
long
a
should they date before they?
yeah?
I think you should. I think you can date someone, really truly date, if you have the intention. If you're like at a point in your life where you're serious and you're like, I'm looking for my spouse. You know, I'm looking for. I think you can date someone for a year, and you should be able to know if that's somebody you would marry or not. I don't think that it should take you more than a year of someone's time and energy to figure out if this is someone that you could possibly spend the rest of your life with.
What he said? Tikata, tikata, tikata.
Uh,
He said something. Carmen said it don't take a whole day to
yeah,
recognize sunshine. So my thing is, I've met people who like, I've been with my man 6 years, and we're gonna get married, and I'm like, you don't work at KFC 10 years. Like that's kind of like an entry level. Like McDonald's is one of those, I'm in high school. Your ceiling. It's like, how long does it take?
Because the crazy thing about that is when you have these
there's a timeline, like a deadline
right,
for everything.
And when you have these long relationships, you're already being husband and wife. You are already, and it's and then women, we get frustrated and we don't know how to express it properly.
Marry me.
Get frustrated because you're being a wife. Like women, we tend to jump into things like full, like we dive full in, just completely in. And so, and as men, I think I've spoken to so many different men in regards to like, some of the fears that they have when it comes to getting married, or, I've heard men that are like, well, what's the incentive in a sense? Because you could date someone and it's basically, we have this, that's my wifey, and you leave it at that, you settle at that. And so I think that it really takes a level of maturity to honor and respect and understand the significance of getting married. And I think that it's just doing things in order. Like when you do things in order, you have favor in that. When you do things in the right manner, then you're able to think things through better and make better decisions.
Do you mean favor with God? Is that a biblical thing?
I mean favor with God.
When you do it the right way, you earn favor with God.
But if you're not a believer, break it down like this. So if you spent 5 years with someone, and you are not married, the little arguments that you have, if you were married, they wouldn't hold the same weight because there's a certain comfort, there's a switch in your posture that comes with the title. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're working at your job for 15 years and you're doing all the work that the manager does,
but you making part-time money,
you gonna be frustrated. Yeah. You ain't gonna want to. You're gonna talk about how you gotta deal with this and that. But if you had the title, this comes with the title.
It's like, hold on.
And so you take the responsibility of what comes with your title. And I think that for me, that's the simplest way that I could show like the importance of really just doing things in order. A lot of the tension and the issues that we wouldn't have if we were walking in order.
Well, you see that. So, don't get tricked out of your spot, your blessing. So, you can play yourself. Right. Like you're with someone, and it could be it could get to the point of marriage, but it doesn't. And since it doesn't, you find yourself in a position of, I feel like this is a marriage. And then you stay hoping that it will get to that point, and it doesn't. So now you're conflicted with, I've been with them so long, it feels like a marriage, but it isn't. So you kind of need to make it clear somewhere in the beginning, middle, that this is my end goal. Because I don't want to end up with you being wifey. Because if you take the Y off, you know what I'm saying? You got wife.
Right.
But when you're just wifey, you're acting like wifey. So it's like the guy's getting the benefit of wife without...
It's the knockoff.
There you go.
The knockoff.
You don't want the knockoff.
You don't want the knockoff.
You want the real thing. This is a real Gucci.
You don't want the Gucci poo. You want
Yo,
the Gucci.
you can sell this and actually get at least 500 or 700. You don't want to be a knockoff, shorty.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And the whole listen, we gotta take
same
a
way
let me hit a left turn real quick. Boop. Let me hit a left turn.
Oh boy.
I hate the word side chick. 10 years ago, side chick didn't really exist. Like it wasn't a thing.
Nobody was talking about it.
It existed. Yeah,
it existed.
But now I feel like it's accepted. Like it's one of those things. Like I'm the side chick. Listen, cut it out. That's all I'm saying. Cut it out. Like you know, don't settle for someone. If you're with them, like you know, people say it's complicated. I hate that. Like either we're together or we're not. It's not complicated.
And
I
so,
hate that.
The same way that, you know, we women want to be so clear when you talking to a dude and you like him, you see potential and all of that. You want to be clear on, well, what are we? And then once you find out what you are, or once you get the answer that you're looking for, half the time when you don't even get the answer that you're looking for, but you just settle for what you get. But even if you get the answer that you look for, even if it does say, okay, well, you're my girl, why do you settle at that? Like, why does that being that's not the security that I think that a lot of women are really striving for. And you're setting yourself up.
So you got a girl who's 21. She been dating her dude since 16. Now they're 22, 23. Is that too young to get married?
22, 23?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't. Mm-hmm.
I say no, it's not too young. Here's why I say it's not too young.
Yeah.
People say, I'm not ready to have a kid. But then some people say, listen, if it happens, you're going to have to get ready. So as you step into the thing about a human is we adjust well to climate, to different situations. If we got to eat or survive, we adjust real quick. So I feel like if your heart is there, do it and you will adjust. It's a sink or swim.
Absolutely.
It's a sink or swim thing. You got to strike while the iron's hot. I'm not saying trap a person, but if your heart is there.
It's the next step. I mean, in every other area of our life, we expect progress. Mm-hmm. So why is it when it comes to relationships that we're just settled on just this one phase here? You know what I mean? Like, why does everybody, not everybody, but, you know, why are so many people just comfortable and content with just this one level and not advancing from that? Right. That's progress. And so if you're with someone, you hear people, sometimes you've been with them for 5 years, and all of a sudden look like the best relationship on earth, but then you hear one of them, oh, I'm bored. Yeah. You're bored because the relationship has not shifted. Right. Yeah. It hasn't gone off to the next level. Yeah. So if you're not progressing, what's happening? You're dying.
You're in it, and it's like, yo, why are you bored? I tell you what, if you got married, because you reached as far as you can go as wifey dating. You get married, now it's like, wow.
And I think some people even have fear as far as when it comes to getting married because they think that the marriage is the plateau. But see, there's so many different aspects to marriage. There's so many, when you're married to someone, that's where you get your most vulnerable. That's where you peel back layers about yourself, about your fears, what your dreams that you might not be tapping into in a relationship. You know what I mean? Because to some extent, when you're in a relationship, we're still putting on our front. Yeah. You know, we're still auditioning to be married, even though we say we don't want to be married.
Exactly. So giving your best foot forward.
Yeah.
So how important is God in a relationship? Now, I feel like there's the watered down version. There's like God 2.0, there's the light version, and then there's the heavy gravy. Like one slice of this. You know how y'all be like, one hit of this, you be gone. I don't smoke or drink, but I'm saying. Then in 2018, there's God light, and then there's God. So I feel like light, let me give you this. I feel like light God is like, you get with somebody, you know, you do the regular, like, yeah, the sex was good, we get along, that's my boo. You know what I mean? We have a good chemistry, makes me laugh, and the sex is good, and we vibe well. You know, and we do like to do the same things. That's like the world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because that's God light. That's God light. Because people would say they're not being bad people per se. They're with each other. They're not sleeping with everybody. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with each other. But then there's God thorough, where he says, don't have sex before marriage. Seek me first, the kingdom of God, and then I will add her. Then, you know what I'm saying? So
what I'm going to say about that, first and foremost, is that there is no God light or God. There's just God. Like, God, his word, God is just solid. Like, there's no middle. There's no, it's like hot or cold. To get in the
army, you got to meet requirements. To
it
get
says
in
the
college,
Bible, no lukewarm. It's either
you gotta
hot
meet the requirements.
or cold. And so, as it pertains to the importance of having God in your relationship, it's immensely important. It should be here's the thing. It's not about having God in your relationship. It's about you having a relationship with God.
First.
If you had a relationship with God, God will automatically be in your relationship.
First step is one.
You have
I meet you. I have God in my life. You have God in your life. Then we come together.
And of course, exactly, he's going to be in the midst of that. And the importance of that, I know, I want to say I believe in God, but I'm not a religious person in the context of, I think when the average person thinks of religion, if you're not a believer and you think of like the being judgmental and you think of a lot of the hypocrisy that you see with some individuals who say that they are believers, I'm someone who I built my own relationship with God. I study the word for myself so that I can have understanding. Mm-hmm. And once you actually have understanding of the word for yourself, you see its benefit and you see the fruit of it and you understand the importance of having that as your foundation. It just makes sense. Like, we didn't make ourselves, and so if you want to know how anything is supposed to operate or function, then you go to the maker.
The creator of it.
And so, but yes, God has to be in the middle of your relationship, the front, the back, the top. God needs to be the foundation of your relationship, because if God's not the foundation of your relationship, you're pulling on one another and you're leaning completely on one another. And really what happens with that is you make gods of each other. You start to worship one another. You're
my everything. You're all everything. I need.
Your mood, your day depends on, did I get that morning text? Oh, she must have an attitude. Or he must be doing something.
Y'all know I love my music. We're going to pause here. What's that? Where'd it go? You're all I need to give out.
You should you can't drop that.
Yo, you're all I need. You know what I mean? So you got to reach a point where God is all you need. 1. 2, what happens is you start to want a person, not need them. When you need someone, it's like, okay, when I don't need you no more, things change. So here's the thing.
And when you need someone, you literally, it's draining.
Versus wanting them.
It is draining. Nobody can be responsible for your happiness. Nobody can be responsible for your success. Nobody can be you just can't put that responsibility on someone, and it becomes draining. And so that's how you want to know how somebody can be married for 20, 30, 50 years. It's having an understanding that you're not my source. You know what I mean? Like, you're like the extra battery. You're the backup battery. Yeah. You're the reboot, but you're not my source.
Right.
And I'm talking about happily married, because
you said earlier he'll be in the midst. So what that means is, biblically they say where 2 or more gathered in God's name, he'll be in the midst. So you always want God in the midst of your relationship. Family and pray together, stays together. So if the guy and the woman come together in agreement, then God will get the glory out of it. And here's the thing. God said his word, he can't be a liar. His word will not return void. So here's the thing. I feel like God would be a liar if he let a negative relationship continue to be prosperous and flowing and just without any issues. So we all will go through obstacles, but when you go through obstacles with God, it's not as hard. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when you
He
go through
says that.
obstacles without God,
He
it
says,
can
"With
damn near
me,
kill
my
you.
yoke is your yoke is easy.
With me,
Your yoke is
your
easy.
yoke is easy." So I hope y'all getting this. Listen, yo, don't make me y'all come through this camera and straight
So
drill it in your head. Get this.
Let me say it from this standpoint. When you really understand God's word for yourself, and when you have a relationship with God for yourself, you really understand who you are, and you understand your position. And so as a man and as a woman, it doesn't become about, well, who do I need to be for this person? You can go ahead and make choices and show up and give your all, because you're not basing who you are and who you're showing up as based on their expectation of you. You're basing it off of who God says you are. You're basing it off of something that does not depend on them. And that's how you're allowed to have, that's how unconditional love flows. Like, unconditional love flows when you're able to stay in your position despite what might be going on with your spouse, because it's not based on them.
And then as an individual human, because even if you get married, two becomes one. But as an individual human, you don't really want to lose yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can find yourself because man will always let you down. You know what I mean? You don't want to just completely lose yourself, right? So let me ask you something. I have a question here, right? Do you have a mentor? Like, is that important?
I've had mentors. In my past, I've had plenty of mentors. I read a lot. Currently, right now, do I have a mentor? I would say I still, yeah, I do have mentors right now. I do.
I could say a mentor is important. Someone who you can hold you accountable. Someone who you respect, and that they're where you kind of want to be. Somewhere in their life is a reflection of what you want to be, and they can help you to get there. You know what I mean? So I would say a mentor is really important. You agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you something. If you could erase, this is kind of like one of those standard questions I throw everybody. If you could erase one memory that happened out of your life, just one, if you could just be like, that never happened, what would it be?
If I could erase one memory.
One memory.
My Jesus.
That never happened. You could just hit the erase button.
You know what? I can't really actually say that there's any memory that
there gotta be something. And it don't have to be with just something you did. It could be someone's not here no more. You want them back. It could be.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to erase that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You feel like the
and
path
I'm not even trying to
walking.
sound.
Yeah.
You know? But seriously, I literally, there's certain things that I've experienced that at the time seemed like pure hell.
Yeah.
But it pushed me, and it caused me to look deeper and to look, to look into, to try to see what we don't normally pay attention to. And that's why I'm able to be effective with my coaching. So
that's deep.
Yeah, there's nothing I would.
If you could relive a moment, something you want to feel twice, something you've been through, whatever. If you could relive a moment in your life, what would that moment be?
That would definitely be every moment with my mother. My mother passed away in 2014.
Okay.
And so we don't get those moments back. But if I could, that's what it would be.
Time is the most valuable thing. Once you lose it, that's it. y'all better appreciate the time I'm taking to sit here to bring y'all this Hello New World podcast. Because you people in Boston, sometimes, y'all can be like very, I seen your little podcast, whatever. You doing your little thing or whatever. It's cute. Jesus. I like it. I hope y'all appreciate the time I'm giving y'all. Because when I'm gone, RIP Triple X, man. XXX Tentacion. Awesome dude. His music was inspiring. I got like bipolar. I have these moments during the interview where I just need to do my own thing. You know what I'm saying? That's my inner
break
yang.
Out. You just need to break out.
My inner yang. I just got All right. So, all right. If you could be any animal, bird, mammal, anything, what would you be? Ant, bird, anything. What animal would you be?
Have to be
a tiger.
Why did I whisper that? Lord.
It's a break. This is a break from the seriousness.
This is an icebreaker.
Like, it's a break from the seriousness. It breaks up the.
I don't know if I could be any animal. I mean, my gosh.
Where you be in 5 years? Where do you think you'll be in 5 years?
In 5 years, I'll be in my vacation home with my husband and my children, working on a tour.
A tour to empower.
A tour to empower.
Word. I want to ask you something, right? How do you feel about, what do you think about the whole bisexual, the whole gay thing? Yes. This is a thing. Like, what do you feel about the gay thing?
I don't feel any type of way. I'm a believer, and so.
Let me reword that.
Yeah, I don't feel.
Not the gay thing.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to say. Let's omit that. The question.
Doing?
Okay. So here's my thing, right? I tend to personally run into. Are you
talking about how?
It's like this. I tend to run into people who weren't born gay, but they kind of like, I'm experimenting. Now. It's like a thing.
I'll say this much. This is something, if anything,
almost faddish. Like it's a fad, like a trend. This is
something, if anything, that just when I heard it, I was like, oh, excuse me. A friend of mine had told me that her coworker told her that at her child's kindergarten that they allow the children every day to state whether they want to be addressed as male or female. I think something like that is dangerous because what you're doing is you're laying a groundwork for kids to, number one, think that
it's manipulative.
It is manipulative, and their intention. It's like you're laying the groundwork for them to even question themselves.
Like if they didn't have the thought, now it's okay to start having the thought,
and children are innocent. Children are innocent, and so an innocent child could say, you see other children, maybe saying, maybe Johnny today wants to be Jessica, and so now you're like, well, I'll be. Whatever today, but in an innocent way. And I think that we have a responsibility as adults to protect the innocence of our children. And we give too much power to children in this attempt to say, well, we're allowing them to express themselves. They're kids. Yeah. And so where do you draw the line between your role as an adult to guide and protect, because you're supposed to guide? Where do you draw that line between you're guiding and protecting?
And honestly,
in actual,
what the heck does that have to do with education?
Absolutely. What is
that?
Like, why is that happening at school?
We just start there. Like, explain to me what Mr. As of right now, this is a boy, so you can just Mr. him, and that's a girl, so you can Mrs. her, and they could do that at home because we're doing the education part. You're kind of undoing what someone did.
And for me, that's scary. For me, it's scary. And, I'm someone who
That's the Hello New World part of this show. Because I'm going to be honest with you, we didn't face some of the issues we face now 30 years ago,
Absolutely
20 years
not.
ago. So when I created the clothing brand Hello New World, it was for fashion, no doubt, but I'm moving into a segment now where it's like I invite people on here to come show their world, because everyone's on planet Earth, but we all don't live the same life. You know what I mean? So it's like worlds within worlds within worlds. So this is a platform where I say what the hell I want. One, okay. Two, this is my damn show. Three, I say what the hell I want. And as the world, because the world does what it wants.
Lord.
It evolves, it changes. There's sex dolls for $5,000.
Okay.
And I'm allowed to like speak on the things that exist in the world. As long as it exists in the world, in the new world, the old world, we speak on it. So I think what you just said was very interesting. And I think that if
Here's the
people have the right to voice their opinion and say, we're going to let them say Mr. and Mr. I have a right to speak on what I think about them doing
and
it.
so here's my thing, and I think I'm someone normally in every conversation that I have, I can always see both points. Like if you tell me something, I'll be able to tell you, well, Junior, I can understand that person's perspective, or so I kind of sit in the middle on stuff. Here's the thing. Whenever you are aggressively trying to demand your freedom, first of all, if you're free, you don't have to demand your freedom. Second of all, whenever you're trying to aggressively demand your freedom, or you're trying to make sure you're not oppressed, someone else is being oppressed in the process. And so if you're for me, like I think about what I just brought up as far as those children, which you just touched upon, that going into a school environment and literally having the culture of that school undo the work that your parents have done at home, undo the foundation that they've laid before you at home. How is that admissible? How is that okay? But at the same breath, if somebody wanted to come in and say, well, this is my belief and I want my child to not be exposed to certain things, then it turns to, well, you're hateful. No, I'm not hateful, but I have a right just the same way you have a right. And I think that there really are just some boundaries and
it's like a play your
balance
position.
That's just not there anymore.
Yeah, it's like people are overstepping their boundaries and positions. It's like, I'm a parent, the roles within parent. You're a teacher, that's homework. That's history. That's science, math. not all. And if it's health class, you can talk about food and certain foods. But when you start saying, would you want to be a boy or a girl? It's like, listen, I was born a boy. Like, you could look right at me.
But now your child is now confused. And
let my mom talk to me about if I want to be a boy, because they had me.
Or let the child actually really come out on their own.
Yeah.
And say, this is how I feel.
What do you think is the goal here? What's in the air?
Man.
It's a certain evil.
Illuminati. Oh, Jesus. No, we ain't going there.
But
I think that at the core of it, just like with the feminist movement, let's bring it full circle. I think at the core of it, you have people who are trying to have their voice heard, have to feel like, that they can be acknowledged. But at the same time, you don't realize, because you're so focused on what your goal is, you don't realize how that tramples over other people. And so in a sense, it's kind of like, it's almost hypocritical, like you it's almost hypocritical. You want to be heard, but you don't want you want to be heard and respected, but you don't want to hear and respect at the same time. And you feel like you don't have to, because you feel like you've been oppressed. And so, you feel like it's not valid. How you being heard and you being respected or acknowledged is what's valid. So
it's not often I get to talk about God, so let me go there.
Yeah, go ahead.
God is
from
real.
That standpoint, it's just wrong.
This is me.
Not what he wants.
This is my personal views. Freedom of speech in the United States of America.
Amen.
Me. I believe in God. I believe in the devil. There's good, there's bad. There's rain, there's sunshine, there's opposites. It's black, it's white, it's hot, it's cold. The devil is real, and I feel like he's at work And anybody that's not being used by God is being used by the devil. There's a certain standard that's been put in place. There's the male dog, the female dog. And this guy, gay guy, said to me, so are you like against gay people or something? And I'm like, bro, what? There's nothing to be against. You're alive, I'm alive, do your thing. What you eat don't affect me. But he's like, so is it wrong? And I said to him, listen, he's like, because you're like, you believe in God and all that. Your God goes against my thing. And I'm like, listen, let's eliminate God. We're going to eliminate God. We're going to eliminate my belief, Buddha. We're going to eliminate all that, right? Let's just talk this. Just human to human. If there's 10 people left on the planet, 5 women, 5 men, right? And we need to reproduce. But the 5 men and the 5 women are gay. And at that point, no one is reproducing. At that point, will it be good or bad? So let's just strip God. Let's just break it down to the very basics of it all. Right, if you want to break it down to a science. Because you got God, then you got scientists. We say we evolved from apes. So even if you go the scientific way, we won't be able to reproduce. So it's almost like anti-life. It goes against life. Even if you adopt, let's say there's 5 babies left. So there's 5 adults, women, 5 adult men, 5 babies. You adopt. But then it's just 15 people. And they grow up, they die, and everyone. So, my thing is, I'm all for life. Like living, progressing, doing the right thing as a human. But I prescribe to God. That's how I live right and live, So don't let the world overcome your thing. If you're Buddhist, okay. If you're Muslim, okay. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God. And I won't let the world conquer me with their thing. Because in 5 years, what if they say, love is love. You can marry a goat now. You can marry a cat, a dog. Am I going to say, listen, love is love? So, I just feel like as the world progresses, we're not moving to a better place with every movement we create. Some things need to just remain at 1 + 1 will always be 2. I don't need no one ever making it 8. Because then where we go from there? Now, 1 + 1, oh yeah, I got $1, you got $1. We got 2 bills, 8. Like, okay, what we doing here? So I feel like there's a point where some things just need to remain as they are. But God gives you this thing called free will. Absolutely. And who am I to take it away? And I have no heaven or hell to put you in. So and you do what you want. You do what you want. He says that all sins are, equal. Yours, and then some sins are abomination. That too. Some sins become move from sin to transgression. But with that being said, yeah, absolutely. As a believer, that's why I said I don't feel any type of way about it. My thing is I love people. Of course, I love supposed to people, love and I can only, imagine growing up in a world, living in a world where it would appear that everyone thinks that you're wrong, that something's wrong with you, and I can only imagine the internal the internal turmoil of that. I can only imagine, your emotional struggle. And so I love people, and at the end of the day, though, if you ask me what I believe what God's word says. And so if that's not an agreement, and I look at it in the same way that I say sex before marriage is not in agreement with God's word. That's I look tough at it one, right? Like people, when you say to someone no sex before marriage, it's like you just said... No, but I look at it in the same way. And so, I think that our job is not to be the condemners of anyone else's soul. Our job is just to love people and to be that space, to be supportive, but at the same time to still walk in truth. And I think that you have to be truthful with people if you really do love people. Yeah. And so, but it's not hate the sin, not the person. Right. And it's not, and I think that's where there's so much pushback when it comes to religion, because there's so many religious people who are just they end up hating the person, rejecting the person. I don't hate gays. I want to throw that out there. Not at all. I'm just giving my feedback from what I come from, and I want to say this. You said something about no sex before marriage. For those that don't know, or you haven't yet thought this way, or maybe you have, whatever. God said no sex before marriage. And here's my interpretation why, and it makes perfect sense. You can argue it. Go ahead on the YouTube page, argue it, whatever. When you have sex with 3 people, you will compare the second to the first, the third to the first to the second. But if all you know is the person that you originally, you haven't had sex with anyone, you date, finally you reach a person that you really rock with, your vision's not clouded by sex. You're not dickmatized or, vaginatized. You don't feel like, I'm just in love with this person. Because a lot of people end up in love with the sex more than the person.
So,
but let me get this. So you fall in love with the person, okay? Your vision's not clouded by sex. But then you finally reach a point where you marry them and you haven't had sex yet. And then you finally have sex. That's all you know. So it's not like, okay, this is great, this is bad. That's what you know. So it is kind of what it is. And your vision's not clouded, you know what I'm saying? But humans will compare. You compare this, your last car to this car, and this interview to that interview, and this song to that song. But if all you know is that person, it's kind of like a perfect process. You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree with that. So in the Bible, it talks about being double-minded. And what you're speaking of is basically a form of double-mindedness, because when you're in a relationship, if you're committed to someone, and if you're married to someone, you're committed to that person, based on your previous experiences, or you having done whatever you've done prior to that relationship, well, now you're double-minded about your full, just everything and all being for that person, because you have all these other experiences that you can kind of look back on
and pull from.
But the no sex, for me, it just goes back to really understanding order. Because, like you said, it's important for you to fall in love with the person.
Yeah.
To love the person. And I don't even really like saying the term anymore, fall in love, because I feel like we get confused with like that emotional chemical response in our minds and our bodies that we have when we feel chemistry.
Yeah.
We think that that's love. But anywho, it's important that you really have a heart for the person outside of sex, because you're giving your body to someone. That's your all. Like, we need to really start
seeing... That's the ultimate connection.
Not even just the ultimate connection, but that's the ultimate... we need to start valuing ourselves really as we should be valued.
The value of sex is a little low. People do it, the next day they don't even speak.
Like your body, like you're giving your all to someone. Laying down your body. Like, think about that. When you're laying down, you're giving your body, you're laying your body down to someone.
Time souls, almost soul time.
That's basically the same. Like if somebody said, "Yo, would you give your life for me? Would you lay down your life for me?" And so it's just backwards. When you have sex, before there's a connection, before there's understanding, when especially as women, what happens is we give our bodies thinking
it's a confirmation.
Yeah.
Like, I like you. I just gave you that.
Right. I just gave you that. Or we give our bodies thinking, because we innately yearn for that tie, for that bondage, and to be, joined with someone. And so you do it backwards. If you have sex before marriage, you do it backwards. And it's not fruitful.
And then you end up with the baby father you don't really know. You never really liked him. You gave him your body.
But I feel like once you give your body, you literally can't. Now the relationship's tainted, because there's always...
You don't know if you like them or this, sometimes like...
Not even just about liking people, but I think that...
Am I into them or am I into the sex? It's clouded. Like, it's tainted.
Clouded. It's clouded, and I mean... Obviously, there are people out here who have wonderful relationships, who've been with each other for years, and they don't do it that way. They didn't wait, but...
Megan Good waited, I think. They had like a book. It could wait.
The wait.
They
did wait. But, obviously there are people out here who seem like, and that's what we need to stop doing. We need to stop looking at what everyone else is doing and say, well, it looks like it's working for them, because you don't know somebody's conversations, off of Instagram.
I mean, because technically you could say they robbed the bank and got away. Well, here's a bunch that didn't. So which one you want to follow?
Right, and you really want to, I mean, look at your own history. Look at what you've done so far and look at the end result of what you've done so far. And how do you like that? You know what I mean? Has that gotten you really what it is that you're looking for? And if it hasn't, then why not want to change?
If it's broke, fix it.
Why not try something different?
Exactly.
And so, yeah.
I'm going to say this. The harder thing to do is typically the smarter thing to do. There's that little voice in you all the time that tells you, don't do that. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should. We kind of almost know the right thing to do. It's just about actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? So that it's just tough. Being human and managing everything and trying to get everything right and trying to with emotions and it is.
And I think that for women especially, every time you give your body to someone, and then that relationship ends, you're fragmenting yourself. And whether you want to say it out loud or not, it chips at your self-worth and your value, because you gave your all. You gave yourself to someone that still wasn't enough. And I've talked to so many women, and really, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Whether you want to acknowledge, or really if you're able to identify that, that's an emotion that might be subsided within you. But that happens. And I think that, when you see a lot of situations where it's like, oh my God, we were so great. And then, we were intimate, and all of a sudden, it seemed like things just faded away. And it's because there was nothing really established there in the first place. And
you kind of plateaued quickly. It progressed quickly. Like, where do you go from there?
Where do you go
if you're all the way up here, the only way to go is down.
Right.
There should be gradual steps to it all. Listen, this is the Hello New World podcast. This was the Hello New World podcast. I'm Paris France. This is Victoria Fortes. She's a life coach. This is part 1. She'll be back. This is an open discussion for her to share what she does, for us just to have open dialogue, hoping that someone gets something out of it. My views and points are my views and points. It's not a reflection of Insight Radio. It's a reflection of me, Paris France, of the Hello New World podcast. This is Victoria Fortes. I am
Miss. No, actually, I changed it. It is I am Victoria Fortes on IG. Yeah.
On IG, I am Victoria Fortes. Fortes. I am Victoria Fortes. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. Love you all. And have a good day. Have a good night. Thank you.